Don't be alarmed. The quasi-shimmering light before you is a trans-dimensional gateway to other worlds, other voices, other thoughts, and other realities. Up feels like down, and down feels like the number 7 on a Wednesday morning. Don't worry. That quivering, blood-boiling sensation under your eyebrows is all a part of the charm. Welcome to the PCC Multiverse.
And we're back again
with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford. I'm so sorry, everyone. It's one of those things in life. You're just like, you have everything set up, you have a good conversation going, and you realize you forgot to hit the record button.
Podcast
life, indeed. It is, of course, Gerald Glassford. Of course, all the shows that I do. If you catch me on any of them, please support it by liking and subscribing. And for this station, for this, as far as people listening on the radio, thank you so much for being a part of what we do. To the radio stations, thank you so much as well. And of course, if you're listening to this on podcast outlets, a 5-star review really does help out the channel indeed. It is, of course, Gerald Glassford. I'm like, oh my God, one of life's most embarrassing moments right there. But it is, of course, Gerald Glassford, along with a great PC Multiverse we have for you. It wouldn't be a great PC Multiverse without a good friend indeed. It is, of course, the master, the guru of pop culture. It is the great one, TJ Johnson. Try this again, my friend. Hopefully,
what's up for the second time? Back again.
Absolutely. We were talking about tomahawk steaks at WrestleMania. Yeah. Keeping the bone. Yeah, that bone won't be so fresh after a few weeks, but oh well. I will say this again, for aesthetic reasons in wrestling. Yes, Saturday on WrestleMania was much better than Sunday. I'm not going to argue with that. I was in the crowd on Saturday. I heard the crowd or lack thereof. When Seth Rollins comes down, you realize Seth Rollins, the wrestler, is not that popular, but Seth Rollins, the music, is very popular. So the matches just didn't flow that well. Okay, I get that. I understand it. But why is Saturday a much better day for me than Sunday, which was a great wrestling day, one of the best WrestleMania days ever? I think we could clearly say for me, it was a more wonderful day because my daughter went with me, and her wrestler, Liv Morgan, won the world title, and the elation on her face said it all. And for a dad like you, TJ, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like we were kind of discussing before, I think if you're looking at it from an objective standpoint, it's not even close. Yes, night 2 was way better, and we'll get into what they need to do to fix that moving forward later on in the show. But if you look at it from a personal standpoint, you got to experience a one-on-one thing, Gerald. You got to experience the first time taking your daughter to WrestleMania, where her favorite wrestler won the world title live in living color. Like, there is no duplicating that experience. That is a one of one. It'll never happen again. And so for you personally, I can completely understand, subjectively speaking, that night 1 was the best, and night 1 will always be the best WrestleMania for you personally. And I would 100% back you on that if you're looking at it from the subjective standpoint. Objectively, WWE has got to do a better job with booking, and have got to do a better job with their storytelling, and have got to do a better job with mixing up these matches, because night 2 was at leaps and bounds better than night 1. And I think they need to do a better job of mixing up these matches that people seem to want to care about a little bit more than what they did.
Absolutely. And again, I just enjoyed it for what it was worth. I know that, again, Saturday is not going to equal in the pantheon of WrestleMania. Sunday is going to be the day that everybody's going to remember for a lot of great reasons. I know that, of course, seeing how it started with Opa Femi and Brock Lesnar with his quote unquote retirement. We'll see how long that lasts. Saudi money. When it comes to what we see, they're going to bribe one of these guys to come out of retirement.
You've been saying Saudi money for like 3 weeks now.
Am I not right? Am I not right?
Anytime I mention The Rock, Saudi.
Am I not right? One of those guys that's
We'll
recently
see.
retired,
We'll
the
see.
AJ Styles, the Brock Lesnar's, the Rocks. Well, the Rock's not in retirement per se. He never put his boots in the ring or anything like that. He's just not been active. But Steve Austin, one of those guys, they're going to go ahead and bribe because they have to make it special for people to go ahead and want to come over there. Plus, it's, why go there? You know what I mean?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I get it. I hate the idea that they're holding on to those best guys for their, one last little payout, but that's a business at the end of the day. So I do understand.
So with that though, WWE, I think again, yes, the inflated audiences numbers aside, like if you think that they got over 100,000 people, good for you. I was in the stadium.
It was
If that
not
was
happening.
yeah, I've been in that stadium several times, and if you think that's 50,000 in there, good luck. But I was in there. I know that for the fact. I know how unfilled it was. I know that the rafters were tapered off. I know that parts of the stadium were tapered off. The stage itself takes away about 7,000 seats itself from one side of the building. So yeah, okay. I'm not going to try and sit here and argue with you on that, but I was in the stadium. I know that's not 50,000, but I'm not going to argue with that. Financially, I still think it was a great success for them because of what they were doing, how much they were selling, the prices, which everybody talks about, which are extremely expensive. Still, even at the discounted rates for tickets, even at the fact that, you're just going there, it is still, I think, a financial windfall for the company because the fact that A, it's over the course of 4 nights, if you include Raw and SmackDown, and B, just the merchandise sales alone. I told you I went twice to WWE Superstore. Just the amount of stuff that was sold at it between Friday when I went and Monday when I went, at the exorbitant prices that they went for. You cannot say it's not anything but a financial win for the company.
No, I don't think you can, and I don't think you'll ever be able to say WrestleMania, especially breaking up into 2 nights is anything less than a financial gain. Having 2 nights to experience WrestleMania, having it broken up into 2 separate nights, more talent gets out there, more seats are be filled in the stands. I mean, it absolutely makes financial sense. I think where we tend to want to draw the line or tend to become frustrated with what they're doing is that when it becomes overly saturated for no reason. And again, we'll get into some of those qualms that I had with WrestleMania in a minute, but you're giving us a watered down product. It'd be different if you were giving us a full-fledged show each night, but you're giving us a watered down product overall, or you're giving us a really watered down day one and then an amped up day two, or maybe a little bit more amped up day two with a super amped up main event for day two. Like there's a lack of consistency, and there's a lack of constant things to grab your attention. So yes, it makes financial sense, but I just wish that somebody who wasn't just thinking about the financials looked at it from a standpoint of what are we giving to the fans? What kind of experience are we giving them? What kind of overall presentation are they receiving? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what people have to remember is that it really is about the fans that put their butts in the seats and that pay to be there. So
It just seems like it's comfort food. I think I described that to you
you
before,
did, yeah.
and I'm just not liking the comfort food. I think that the fact that they have to go ahead and have for Cody, CM Punk, who you were sour on. Cody is Randy is or Roman is sorry, and his teeth are it's just
You didn't talk about his teeth.
you did because okay, I know
Oh
Jacob Fatu
man.
is the next battle for Roman Reigns. Who really has the werewolf teeth? Who
Oh
really does?
man.
He
That's
does.
funny. That's
Have you
funny.
seen them? Did you see him? Did you see?
You couldn't
They're
help
great.
but see those veneers, man. You couldn't
Yeah,
help but see
they're.
them.
I know that would make my stepson very jealous because he, he's a dentist, and so That right there, you show those off and say, "Hey, you can have these two for
Yeah,
six or seven
$200,000,
treats."
whatever.
There. But what I want to say is, it's just that it it it's their comfort food, and I think it's sometime soon they need to get off the comfort food, to especially in the summer months. They need to start freshening things up, because the summer months can be a big swoon for them as far as the interest lies, that happens after WrestleMania. Is there a direction you want them to go this summer?
I think that they really need to start leaning into their their younger roster. And this is this is what I mean by that. And I'm 41. I'll be 42 this year. But I am no professional wrestler. Watching these guys go out there and put their bodies on the line the way that they have been for as many years as they've been doing it is cool, but it's also a very precarious spot. And what I mean by that is, the WWE, because we're going with this comfort food thing, which I think is a great analogy, by the way. They're going with the comfort food. That means that they don't have enough confidence in their young stars to really push them yet. Now, obviously, Oba is a bit of an exception, because of what he was just able to do with Brock Lesnar and how Brock Lesnar completely put him over, which I have never seen Brock Lesnar do with anybody else ever in the history of WWE and Brock Lesnar. Um, they have to be willing to really go all in on their young stars. And I think that this was a bit of a passing of the torch, so to speak. And I think for all the progress that they made, though, in passing the torches in the Obas and the Trick Williams and the Whoop That Trick, which I love that entrance. I love it. But with all the Obas, forever the Obas and the Stephanie Vakirs and the Trick Williams, then they go back to the Rhea Ripleys, they go back to the Cody Rhodes, which I know he's old. He's not old, but and then they go back to Roman Reigns, and they keep wanting to walk backwards, and it's like we got to make a decision. We either have to go in or not, but we can't kind of put one foot in, test if it's lukewarm, and then pull our toe back out. Like, make a decision. Just I like to see them go younger. I like to see them really push their young stars. They've got some great young talent that really showed out at WrestleMania. I really, really did. So I'm excited for the future. I just wish that they would lean into that more and allow that to be their truth going forward, and not keep going back for comfort food.
I too, I agree, and I just think it'd be a way to liven things up and freshen things up. But we're going to get a heavy dose of the same thing, and even more of it, and possibly even a CM Punk Cody Rhodes battle, which I don't know. If that excites you, that's fine. And this ever decision making as far as whether or not you decide to turn Cody Rhodes heel or whatnot. Again, I just want to see new faces at this point. I just want to see new faces, try new things. I don't think at this point it's about the champions that are drawing people. I think it's about the product that is drawing people at this point. I don't think that there's one singular individual driving force that's bringing in everything as far as the fans are concerned, unless you want to consider Danhausen, but that's a different story altogether. But you know, I don't think any of those stars that I just mentioned are bringing in. They're not a Hulk Hogan back in the '80s and the height of Hulkamania, where people were coming in specifically to see Hulkamania beat the villain of the month type deal. We're not talking about going in into middle attitude era where you're going to see the NWO specifically to go to be cool, to be part of something cool with the NWO. This is something, or John Cena at the height of John Cenaism during 2008, 2009, what have you. This is a point where you're seeing the product for what it is. You're going because you want to see the product as a whole. There's other stars that you want to see, or other, like for instance, my daughter. She'll talk to me all about the main event players all day long, but in the end, she wants to go to see other individuals go to wrestle. So I ask you, my friend, is it now the best time to go ahead and try new things, because it's now about the product being the drawing card instead of the actual wrestler who is on top?
Mm. Joe, I think that's a good question. I think when I think we're in a very interesting spot where we, as the millennials, elder millennials, Gen Xers, we're looking for a lot of the yesteryear, and I think that works in our favor, but also works against us because it'll never be what it once was. And I look back at WrestleManias from years past, like WrestleManias, 19, 18, 17, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the pinnacle of WrestleMania, which we'll get into for the retro review later on. But we are looking for those type of moments, those type of feelings. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age where we're not going to really have access to those kind of feelings. And the reason I say that is because everything is so open now. Everything is so out there now. Everything is, with the way we consume media has changed so much that we now see, interact with, look into our stars on a day-to-day basis, like hour by hour almost. They're always tweeting, or we get to have different, looks into their life and what they're doing, and they're doing TV shows and they're doing, late night shows or whatever the case may be. We have so many different ways to consume our WWE superstars that we're not going to have the opportunity to really gush over them the way that we did for WrestleMania 17, when all we had was Raw. We might have had a Sunday Heat, and we did have Thursday Night SmackDown, but we didn't have anything in between there. There were no peeks into their lives, and they weren't so big on pulling back the curtain and allowing you to see all that. So we're looking for a different age that's no longer going to be there. So I think we have to be very careful because, and we romanticize the yesteryears, but we have to realize that it's not going to happen. So we have to embrace the new moving forward, and we have to be willing for them to, we have to be pushing for them, being WWE, to also embrace the new moving forward and not continue to go back to this comfort food. They really got to get out of that habit and really just be all in. Like, it's a new day, it's a new age. They're gonna be new superstars doing new things. We have to be willing to accept that, and so do they.
Once again, it is TJ Johnson along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate you joining us on the PCC Multiverse. So with the WWE, again, being a great source of conversation, I know that there's, as far as the remnants of Las Vegas, I don't think Las Vegas is going to get one anytime soon, nor am I asking for a return to Las Vegas. I think there's other great cities. I don't mind it being here. It's great if it's here. I would like to go back, but I think at some point you got to start going ahead and going other places. Saudi Arabia is next year for sure. I'd like to see them. I've advocated for London to go ahead and get one. I think that would be a nice fresh change of pace as far as is concerned. There's other cities around the world that might want to go ahead and be a good place for it as well. So again, I don't mind WrestleMania being in Vegas, but I think after what we saw, I think WrestleMania in Vegas needs to go ahead and rest for a little while to go ahead and recharge for another, I guess, time around, hopefully in at some point in time down the line. I wouldn't mind that. Although the wrestlers themselves, with a lack of security, from what I hear and the incidents that happened, I think they would probably like to be somewhere
Yes,
else.
yes, for sure. And shame on the WWE for allowing that to transpire. Shame on Vegas for not taking care of them better. But all in all, I think that we have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that these WWE superstars are still people at the end of the day. And like I said earlier, they you have access to them way more than they ever were accessible back in the day. So in understanding that, we have to realize that, they always have to be on now. Like, there is no break time. There is no time where they can just be them. You have to look at the incident with CM Punk and the camera, when they were kind of harassing AJ Lee and harassing who was the other, the person that was with them?
Well, Bailey, yeah, but there
Bailey.
were several incidents with
For sure.
Royce Keys.
For
You
sure.
mentioned CM Punk. There were
Yeah.
other, but I'll just say this because I've lived in Vegas for so long. And it's not to be mean, it's not to be unkind, but it's just a
Hmm.
perception that it's a reality thing for me. It's the fact that, okay, the NFL draft was here in Vegas not too long ago, a couple of years ago, whatnot, and I didn't hear of too many security issues. And there were tens of thousands of fans here in attendance, just like during WrestleMania for a period of days. And I'm assuming that these hotels provided extra security, provided overtime for their security officers, provided additional number of securities. So I didn't hear as many issues security wise, even though you could see during the
Mm.
ESPN broadcast there were tens of thousands of fans coming in from all over the country to go ahead and support their NFL team and players. Flash forward to last weekend, and you hear about all those incidents and lack of security. I'm assuming it's a case again that professional wrestling is still a kind of ways to go in certain people, in certain levels of our society as far as the thought process is concerned. They don't get it. There's still some areas of our world that just don't get pro wrestling and don't understand how special it is to a community out there. I lived it, I walked it, I experienced it over the course of the weekend. I saw the community and I interacted with the community at large for quite a bit of it, and it was a great pleasure to see. But you can understand the fanaticism when you're there because of how they interact with the WWE wrestlers themselves. And yes, they should have provided better security. Absolutely, my friend. But I wanted to get this off my chest as someone who's
Mm.
seen a lot here in Vegas. They didn't respect professional wrestling. They
Yeah.
didn't get the security that would be needed for professional wrestling. They, if they have the choice, it's seemingly clear that they have the choice because they didn't provide the overtime necessary to provide extra officers out there to go ahead and protect the wrestlers. They said basically that, oh, well, we'll just risk a lawsuit and we'll risk an incident because we'd rather protect the money. Because where are they at? They're walking through casinos. So what do they prioritize if they're not going to go ahead and provide extra manpower? They're going to always protect the money first. That's what
Yeah.
they'll always do above anything else. And it's acceptable? No, it is not acceptable. I will say that clearly right now. But it's just a reality that in the professional people take professional wrestling for granted. People still don't understand the popularity that it has and how much it can consume, and they just don't get it. There's some people like these casino execs, they just didn't get it, so they didn't provide the overtime necessary, didn't provide the extra manpower necessary to make these wrestlers safe. Is it excuse? I'm not saying it's excuse. I'm just saying it's a reality of what is here in Las Vegas.
And I don't disagree with that. I really don't. But the problem that I have with that in particular is that there's zero excuse for them to not know. We're talking about the WWE, a global phenomenon that has been to Saudi Arabia, to different parts of the world, and you don't think it's popular enough to warrant having extra security there? That is crazy. That is crazy. If somebody didn't do their homework to realize how important or how impactful or how much of a spectacle it could become, being WWE and being the crowd that it brings in. You bringing people in from around the world to watch this. This is the grand showcase, the stage of the showcase of the immortals, the grandest stage. And you don't think to bring in extra security like that? That's a terrible. If that is the truth, if that's really what happened, then that makes it even more terrible as far as I'm concerned. The fact that you guys, not you guys, so again, but the fact that they didn't think enough to say, hey, we're gonna need extra everything is ridiculous. And if I'm the WWE, if I'm the TKO group, I would never look at Vegas again. I would never look at Vegas again off of this experience. That is a terrible way for them to be treated. That's a terrible way for them to be taken care of. And the fact that somebody didn't do their homework and realize how big of a deal this was really going to be is an absolute detriment to them. And shame on them for allowing that. That is terrible.
Should it come back to Las Vegas? I don't know. Again, ultimately the money will dictate it, and if Las Vegas Visitor and Convention Authority, who was a big part of the reason why that we're here, they paid a lot of money up front. They paid more money this year than last year, and although they didn't get as much in returns, they still got a crowd here, along with National Association of Broadcasters. You had several things going on around the same time, but it was a boost to the local economy. I don't see it happening here for a while. I think they're going to let things breathe for a while here, as far as concerned. But Las Vegas, if it's not a primary thought, maybe in about a decade or so, I'm sure again TJ, if a New Orleans or a Nashville or some other city falls out as far as what they want to pay up front to WWE, you might see it again in Las Vegas at some point in time.
Yeah, I'm sure we might, but it should not be. It shouldn't be because it's a first choice. That's for sure. It may be a last resort. It may be, like you said, a secondary thought. It should not be a first choice. They've already shown who they are. You got to believe them the first time.
But again, it is, of course, WrestleMania. I hope you guys had a great time watching it. I had a great time experiencing it with my daughter on Saturday. Yes, I know Sunday's matches were better, but before we go ahead and close out the half hour, my friend, I wanted to ask your thoughts on your best memories. What was the best match for you for WrestleMania over the course of the 2 nights?
Oh! I think the best match was the 6-man ladder match for the Intercontinental title. I thought that match was incredible. The athleticism that was on display. I mean, Rusev was kind of just there to be, to ground the match a little bit, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But they had some amazing athletes out there doing some amazing things. I was really impressed. And to see Rey Mysterio still out there, still doing, you got all these other guys retiring, AJ Styles retiring, Brock Lesnar retiring, and here's Rey Mysterio. He's like LeBron James, and Dominic Mysterio is like Bronny James. Like they're just, it's so cool to see both of them at WrestleMania. Can you imagine what that moment would be like to say that both dad and son performed on the same, not the same card. No, it was the same card. They were on the same card.
Yeah, they were on the same night.
So they were on the same night. They both performed at the same place for the same company. Like that is an incredible thing. Like this is things that you just don't see happen very often. So I
Well,
think
they
for
had a
me it
match
was,
against each other. Was that WrestleMania last year or no, year
yeah,
before?
absolutely. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's my point. It's like you just don't see these things often. And then we get to see Rey Mysterio and he's still doing it. Like this is years and years and years and years and years later. And he's still out there putting on great quality matches. I mean, that ladder match was intense and was awesome. And there were some huge pops and some huge spots there. And I was really impressed. I love the Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn. Um, I love the back and forth that happened before that. I love the aura that Trick Williams put out. I love the vibe. I loved all of it. Um, I was really feeling if I had to pick one, it was going to be that 6-man Intercontinental Championship match with the ladders. That was intense.
Fair enough. I would probably say, well, it's easy. I could say that Liv Morgan win, but it wasn't really a great match per se, a most memorable match. I thought the main event was good. I thought it was really good. I thought it was probably the best match you're going to get out of those guys. I think it'll be one of the better remembered WrestleMania main events. I still thought that last year's WrestleMania main event with the 3-way with that EOS guy won the title was a better match. But
Mhm.
this match was really good. I think again it capped off a really good Saturday that really flowed well. And I would probably say the main event was pretty strong. It was like about a 3.5, excuse 3.75, 4-star match for me as far as is concerned. The way it panned itself out, there were some really good moments in that match, and I really think that it was a match that I think people should go out of their way to see.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
But that ladder match, like you said, was insane as far as
It
moves are concerned.
was.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you differently because that absolutely was a sight to behold indeed. But if you guys have thoughts out there on WrestleMania and the entire weekend, let me know your thoughts. I know next week on the State of Pro Wrestling, my friend uh, John Orlando is going to talk about his thoughts on what carries from there as well. But TJ Johnson and I over the coming weeks and months will also make sure we got your WWE feel as well. So if you have thoughts on WrestleMania, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, 1.5 hour down, 1.5 hour to go here on the PCC Multiverse. It is TJ Johnson, the guru of pop culture, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. The big release of the weekend is Michael, absolutely. Going to be interesting to see how this translates itself out. It is not eligible for our fantasy summer box office game that we're going to play here in a minute here. So sorry to tell you, TJ, it does not
Yeah,
qualify
that's
because it
fine.
got released just before the May next week, as far as the Devil Wears Prada, basically the Devil Wears Prada 2 from there on in to the end of August. But that being said, my friend, Michael is going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be very front loaded on what it earns. But the word of mouth is what it needs to go ahead and see if it has a long life, because it needs to take
Yeah.
what Project Hail Mary has and see if it can dose it on itself. But the reviews initially are all over the place. Some liking it a lot, not liking it, and the reviews on Metacritic as an overall are not very kind. It has a current 38 Metacritic, and right around that for 3.8, I believe, on Rotten Tomatoes as well. So with that, as far as the user rating is concerned, with that, my friend, as far as the Michael movie itself, I think the most stinging criticism is that it's a paint by numbers movie. That it's a part one of a part two that really I'm not sure people wanted to see happen. It's a movie that doesn't go into the other side where people really wanted to go, as far as the Neverland Ranch and all that stuff. It doesn't even have Janet Jackson in it. And I'll leave it at that. But your thoughts, my friend, on Michael? Again, it looks like a movie that's going to play it safe in its telling of story of one of the greatest entertainers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I think this is kind of something that you and I talked about when we were really talking about this movie for the first time, last year. I as much as I want this movie to be successful because as a Michael Jackson aficionado, if you will, for lack of a better term, I'm I'm always hopeful for anything Michael. I'm always hopeful. I love this renaissance that we're in, where people are taking his songs and remixing them and giving them different beats and giving them different vibes, and we're still appreciating Michael Jackson, the artist, in 2026, and he's been gone for a while now. So I always think that aspect, that part of it, is just really, really cool, and I love the idea that he's being introduced to another generation of potential Michael Jackson fans, and I always enjoy that part. But I have to. I'm very big on telling the truth. I'm very big on keeping it, as close to real as possible, um, within reason. But I don't think you can completely omit a lot of things, and I think that's the problem. People are going to look at this biopic or this document or whatever they want to call it. I don't even know. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, okay, well, this is not an accurate representation of who Michael Jackson is. And I think that's a bit of a twofold response to it, because it really depends on who you wanted Michael Jackson to be. If you just wanted to focus on the music, the career, the magic that Michael Jackson and a performance from Michael Jackson would bring, then I think that this is probably something that's going to be up your alley. But if you're looking for the real about Michael Jackson, and that's going to be very, very tough to do because of how complicated a lot of the situations that he was involved in truly are, then you're gonna come into this movie with certain expectations that are just not going to be met. And I think the real kicker is that you're not ever going to meet everybody's expectations about something like this. Michael Jackson is an icon, a global phenomenon. You will never, he was a one of one. You will never have another, right? And with that, there's always going to be a certain level of scrutiny about anything Michael Jackson related, any project Michael Jackson related, anything that has his name on it. There's going to be a certain level of scrutiny just off the rip, just off bat. So because of that, you are never going to be in a position where you're going to please everybody. And I think the director understood that. And knowing that he can't please everybody, he just kind of did a real paint by the numbers job to try to get it as much of a mass appeal as it can have, which from a studio standpoint or studio perspective, I can understand it. I just wish that we were living in a world where studios, directors, producers, all the guys, the big wigs, had enough cojones to really look for something true and stand by it, and understand that you may have some people that don't like it, and be willing to take those criticisms, be willing to take those hits, because they want to keep their the integrity of what they're doing to be what it is. So I'm hopeful that it does well. I really am. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I'm really, really on the fence about seeing it, because I know how much of a fan I am, and I don't want to be disappointed. I really don't. So I'd much rather almost have the ignorance to it.
You're going to see it at some point. I have a feeling. I'll just
Yeah,
say
I do too.
yeah, your curiosity will. Yeah, so I have a
If
feeling
I can
you'll
watch
see
the
it.
worst movie ever made, then I'm sure at some point I'll be, be watching a Michael Jackson biopic.
Well, you haven't seen The Room yet. Again, I
I
had
thought
to
the worst
correct
one was the
myself.
Ice Cube one. Oh,
No,
that's right. You
well,
did say, yeah.
The Room. Yes, I had to
Yeah.
correct myself because The Room. Although we're talking bad of the bad. The Room is so hilariously bad, but it was. You can tell it was made with it. Just they had no idea what the hell they were doing, and it's funny, and it's a cult classic now, and it's still shown to this day because of all the circumstances leading up to it. War of the Worlds is just bad. It's just bad, and I don't care what you could say it was made around COVID and all that stuff. Like, yeah, that there just are no excuses for War of the Worlds. So I'll just leave it again. Your thoughts on that, as far as what is the worst movie of the 2000s? We'd love to hear that from you guys below. But getting back to Michael, which is not one of the worst movies, although it's not reviewed very highly, which is sad because Antoine Fuqua is one of the best directors, I believe, of the 2000s. I mean, how do you make Training Day, and not be a good director? You know what I'm saying? As far as
Right.
he is a very. I just think he had an uphill battle. It's like one of those things. Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and direct a Michael Jackson biopic? Oh, sweet. Yeah. And then you're into it. And it's like, well,
You can't touch this, or this.
yeah, the family doesn't want you to do this. Janet not giving her approval to be on the movie. We can't, yeah, like you said, can't touch this. Can't approach this. We can't really talk about this. Looks like we might have to make it to a part 2 so that maybe we can attach some of it. Oh, by the way, there's actually I think a part of it, as far as with the Neverland Ranch and all this, there actually might be certain legal restrictions where they can't go ahead and talk about it. So right there in a nutshell is part of the problem, my friend.
Yeah, it really is, and especially, and you hate to say it, but because it was such a huge part of the overall legacy that is Michael Jackson, it's a glaring omission, and it's one that's really like, okay, well, there's all this wonderful stuff with Michael, wonderful stuff, and then there's all this other stuff that happened, that is just real. This really transpired. All these events and all these different occurrences and these courtroom things, these are all real things that happened, and so it's very difficult to have revisionist history about stuff like this when a lot of people that remember it are still here. Like, it'd be different if we weren't here and this is 30, 40, 50 years from now, and Michael's been dead over a century, and everybody that knows Michael's been gone. Like, now it's different. That's different. Okay, the revisionist history might be a little easier to pull off then. It's too soon now. We're still here. So we know the truth. And we see this as a cookie cutter, paint by the numbers, broad, very, 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 very broad strokes. And it's not, that's not where we don't want that. We want the real. We want the nitty gritty, and some of the dirty. And that's how our generation likes it. So it's gonna be tough.
Going to be tough indeed. I do think the movie is going to have a big successful first weekend. Whether or not it has continual good weekends is going to be wait to see, because the fact also as well, we got a stacked summer, which you and I will talk about here in a second. But if you have thoughts out there, I think it's also internationally going to make quite a bit of money. I think most of it's going to be off the international feed. I really think it's going to translate well to an
I would agree with
international
that.
audience.
Yeah.
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 I think it might because the reviews and word of mouth possibly might decline faster in the domestic part of it, but I think it's going to make some money worldwide.
Yep, I would agree with that.
So what are your thoughts out there on Michael, the biopic on Michael Jackson? Are you going to go ahead and check it out? Let us know your thoughts. And if you get a chance to see it, please let us know your thoughts on the movie itself. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com or the comments below as you see this. But before we head on out, hopefully we can sneak in your retro review as well. But I need to get into the mind of TJ Johnson once again, because a little bit of a fantasy thing where we're going to do as far as it's concerned, because we're going to go back and see if we can predict the 10 biggest movies of the summer. So it's now back to the fantasy league, because we still have our stuff going on as far as overall for the year and movies and video games, as far as critically and also box office wise and all that. So that's all well and good, my friend. But it's summertime, my friend. It's almost the time. With the Devil Wears Prada 2 coming out, it is now the summer box office is upon us. And with that, till the end of August, I want to know your thoughts on your top 10 movies of the summer. We're going to go ahead and start this game as far as it's concerned. We're going to say, and the thing is, the winner will have the most correct movies in the most correct slots. I'm going to make this simple. I know that Dan Murrell had his own formula, and I guess I'm stealing this from him, and shout out to Dan Murrell, movie critic. He really does a great job in what he does as far as box office numbers as well. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to make it simple. 1 point for having a movie on this list that's on, if it's a top 10 movie and it is a top 10 movie, and 2 points if it's in the right slot. How about that? We'll make it easy. He had like some whole formula and all that, but I just want to make it simple. Just 1 point if it's actually on the list, and 2 points if actually, like, let's say you make a movie number one and it is the overall number one. Okay. 2 points. An extra point for that. So I think we should, between you, me, and Josh, we can have enough distance on that. I don't think see any ties on that. So with that said, my friend, do you want to do this based off of international, worldwide numbers, or domestic numbers?
I think we need to go worldwide for this.
Worldwide. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So with that, I will hear from you now your top 10 movies. You don't need to go ahead and break down one after one. I'm just hear you on your top 10 movies.
No need to break it down. Just go top 10.
All right. It's like one after another. For this one, so it keeps you in the flow. Yep. Let's just go top 10.
Yep. Copy that. All right. Spider-Man Brand New Day. That's number one.
Let me that's caps lock there. Yeah, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Okay.
Yep, that's gonna be number one with a bullet. I think number 2 is gonna be The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Ooh.
I think number 3 is going to be Toy Story. Toy Story 5 is going to be in the top 5 at least. So Toy Story 5. I think you're going to have Moana, because it's Disney, and the Odyssey. I really want the Odyssey to be in top 5. So, but I'm gonna have to say 6 for the Odyssey.
Wait. Okay, so you got Spider-Man Brand New Day, Mandalorian, Grogu, Toy Story 5, Moana.
Moana.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. 5? That is 5. That is number 5. The Odyssey.
Yeah.
Odyssey's number 5.
You were taking me on an Odyssey there for a second.
See what you did there.
Okay.
All right. Then we're gonna go. It's a little tight here. I think we're gonna go Supergirl.
Ooh. Okay.
And I'm gonna throw in. Minions and Monsters. I'm throwing Minions and Monsters.
Okay.
And then I think I'm gonna end it with Devil Wears Prada. Go ahead.
Oh, Devil Wears Prada. Okay, I was gonna say end it. I'm like, you're number 8 now. Devil Wears Prada.
My last couple. Devil Wears Prada 2.
That's number 8.
Day.
Disclosure Day. Okay.
Yep. And then Mortal Kombat 2.
Ooh, I like that. That's good. That's a pretty decent list you got there.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. All right. So with that, let me go ahead and just start on that. Okay. So you have got Spider-Man Brand New Day, Mandalorian and Grogu, Toy Story 5, Moana, The Odyssey, Supergirl, Minions and Monsters, Devil Wears Prada 2, Disclosure Day, and Mortal Kombat 2. Very interesting indeed. And again, no complicated things. 1 point if you've got it on if it's on your list, and 2 points if it matches. So let's say Spider-Man Brand New Day ends up being the number one movie worldwide for the summer months, and the summer months will be when do we finish this off? When's the cutoff date? We said, Beck told you on our last fantasy with box office for the year, it's February 1. So what is the cutoff date for this?
I would probably say August.
Well, no.
I think.
What's the cutoff date? Well, the movies is August, but what is the cutoff date?
Oh,
Want to say end of September?
Sure. Let's say end of September.
End of September, because that gives the movies in August a chance to, like, let's say there's another Weapons for say.
Yes. Good call.
There you go. All right. So the end of September for that. So my first pick, I'm going to go safely with you, Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I can go that too as well. Okay. All right. I don't want to do it. The last movie did amazing. It seems to have staying power that maybe the Marvel movies may not have at times. So I'm going to say Spider-Man Brand New Day is probably the one that I'm going to say is probably the safest bet to be either or somewhere in the top 3. Number 2. That is a good thing right here. All right. I'm going to probably say Toy Story 5. Toy Story 5. I'm going to probably say Toy Story 5. I'm banking on Disney, banking on my friends at Pixar. Going to go ahead with Toy Story 5. Number 3. I'm going to move up one of yours, and I'm going to put Minions and Monsters on there. So Minions and Monsters on there. I'm going to say they're going to throw some bananas at people enough to go ahead and be a top 3 movie out there. Number 4. I'm going to go with The Odyssey. I'm going to think that IMAX money is going to really kick some butt. And that Odyssey is going to be something where, it's going to make some money, my friend. So I'm going to pick the Odyssey for number 4. I think that IMAX, we will see the true test IMAX. We will see how ticked off Disney gets for, not having the ability to be an IMAX, in Dune 3 shutting it out. So the Odyssey makes money on that. This is where, actually, you know what? I'm going to actually move up Moana. I'm going to move Moana into my number 4. I'm going to move Moana ahead of the Odyssey. And I'm going to say that right there, the Odyssey as well. So I've got Spider-Man Brand New Day, Toy Story 5, Minions and Monsters, Moana, and the Odyssey. I really think of any of these movies, Moana is the wild card in all this, because if people really poo-poo on it based off what they saw, from the animated features, it could hurt. But if they really dig it, man, it could end up beating Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm going to call it right here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think it's the wild card
position. Cotton.
I'm going to make it number 3. I'm going to make it number 3 with that Minions and Minions Monsters. I'm now Monsters. I'm going to say that. I might even regret later on say I should have made it number 2. But after that, interesting indeed. I'm going to say at number 6 is Mandalorian and Grogu. I am not sure how this movie will perform. It is coming on Memorial Day weekend, which is traditionally a pretty good weekend, a really good weekend for movies. But is there still enough magic in Mandalorian Grogu? I think there's enough cuteness for baby Grogu. I think it could get by on a nice, really big weekend. But will it have the legs as it goes into June? That's going to be something we'll have to wait and see on that. Number seven. I'm gonna probably say, that's an interesting thing right there. With a number 7, I am probably gonna go with Devil Wears Prada 2. I'm gonna see if it, since Marvel left, for the most part, although I know they had last year, but they have not been in that first week of May slot every single year like they were for years. It's been touch and go. There was the Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling that didn't do so well, but I think there is an interest for this. I think it can get some legs. Devil Wears Prada 2, I'm going to put at number 7 on my list. Number 8, I'm going to go Disclosure Day. I'm going to go Disclosure Day on that. Number 9. Do I do this ahead of more? Because I think my 10 is almost your 10, 100%. I think unless Backrooms gets that, really big weapons like push, or Masters of the Universe comes in there and it exceeds our expectations, I don't think anybody's pushing the top 10 here. Because I think Masters of the Universe, it's going to be their epic failure or epic success. And I'm still leaning epic failure because of the Jared Leto factor. I'm going to say Supergirl is my number 9. And then I'm also gonna say Mortal Kombat 2 is right there, which is strange because we will have no August movies on our list between you and I.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that's concerning because that leaves it open. There's always one surprise hit in August that we see. So any last thoughts, any recollection, thing you want to go ahead and tweak before we?
Nope. I feel good. I'm confident in this one, G. I'm confident.
All right. Okay. So again, we have the same 10, but in a little different order. So we'll see what happens as far as it's concerned. But if you have a top 10, a list as far as it's out there, let us know your thoughts. And I will get Josh's top 10 for the summer box office that he might throw in there coming up here on Monday as well. But before we head on out, my friend, want to go ahead and touch on your retro review. So we do have enough time. We got about 7 minutes left. What is your retro review for this week, my friend?
Well, in the spirit of WrestleMania and in the spirit of talking WrestleMania, which I can talk wrestling all day till the cows come home. So I really got to get on. I got to get on another one of these shows, and we got to do like a hard dive wrestling because I could do this. But I kind of want to do a combo review, and I want to talk about WrestleMania 17 and WrestleMania 18. Now, the thing about, and there's a reason I'm doing 17 and 18. The reason everybody looks at, and we talked about it earlier, we looked at WrestleMania 17 as the pinnacle of the Attitude Era, right? That was the height of Attitude Era right before the WCW, the merger with WCW and ECW. Right before all of that happened, this was kind of like this is the bar was as far as the Attitude Era is concerned. And I mean, when I tell you, this was probably the most consistent WrestleMania that I've ever watched, as far as from match 1 all the way to the end of the show. Consistent energy from here on out. I mean, if you look at the matches, and I'll just do a quick rundown of each one of the matches. First match, you had Jericho versus William Regal for Intercontinental title. Then you had Taz and the APA versus the Right to Censor. You had a hardcore championship battle royale between Kane, Raven, Big Show. Obviously, Kane was the winner of that. You had the European title, Eddie Guerrero versus Test. If anybody remembers Test, he passed away quite a while ago. But Test was almost a better looking, better moving Kevin Nash. I want to say that would be kind of the easiest way I would maybe equate him.
Mhm.
Then you had Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. You had China versus Ivory for the women's title, which really wasn't much of a match. It was more like a squash match, right? It was just a payoff for a storyline that happened. But it wasn't much of a match. Uh, Big surprise was Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon. A great moment from Linda McMahon standing up was a huge pop. The coast to coast kick from Shane, iconic. It was just oh, oh. Then it gets even better. You have Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys. That was insane. We call that one TLC 2 for a reason. One of the greatest matches in the history of the business. Then you had the gimmick battle royale, which it was a gimmick, but the crowd loved it. So we're gonna roll with it. Undertaker versus Triple H. This is when really they started to put some real weight behind the streak. It was a brutal match. It was a great match, but it's usually kind of overlooked because of how good the TLC match was and how good the main event is. So then you have the main event, which is The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. The second, this is the sequel, because I think the first time that they went head to head was it 15 or 16? It might have been
I think it was
15.
615.
I think it was
Wasn't it 2
15
years?
too. I think it
Wasn't there a
was
2-year
WrestleMania.
gap between
Think there was
15
a
and
2 year
7?
gap.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it was 15 as well. But anyways, this was Rock versus Austin 2, and this one was electric. I mean, oh, the match was just amazing. The ending was a bit more divisive than, because this is when Austin turned heel and sided with Vince McMahon, who's been just, it was almost sacrilegious to say Vince McMahon and Steve Austin on the same side back in the 90s to early 2000s, and here we are, they're on the same team. So it was a little bit crazy for the ending, but it was an electric match. The crowd was on fire, huge moments, and I was just really not so happy with the way it ended. But that's me being a Rock fan too. So the reason I bring that up, because if we're going to turn around and look at 18, and we're going to go match by match with 18. So on 18 you had Rob Van Dam versus William Regal. You had DDP versus Christian, and this is kind of when it was, kind of more like a WWF versus WCW ECW kind of thing going on, where you had the Team WWF versus Team ECW, Team WCW. So yeah, Rob Van Dam versus William Regal. You had Diamond Dallas Page versus Christian for the European title. You had Goldust versus Maven for the hardcore title. Kurt Angle versus Kane, because remember Kurt Angle kind of defected. You had Undertaker versus Ric Flair. You had Edge versus Booker T. You had Steve Austin versus Scott Hall, which is surprising. It was just a drag of a match, to be honest with you. It was really surprising how bad that match was. Then you had a tag team match that had Bubba Ray, you had the Dudleys, you had Billy Gunn, you had Chuck Palumbo. So it was an interesting tag team match. I don't really think that was a good one either. Yeah, Triple H versus Jericho for the undisputed title, which you would think would be the main event because it's just the championship title match. It was a flat main event. Flat main event. The Rock versus Hulk Hogan absolutely stole the show and was the match of the night. And I would almost venture to say it was the match of of a couple of years. And the reason I say that is because this. Let's be very, very clear. There was nothing overtly brutal or technical or fancy or eye popping in this match. This was The Rock, who was a grounded fighter, he was a brawler, versus Hulk Hogan, who was an old brawler. So you got brawler versus brawler. On paper, those two styles, they go together, but just because they go together. But we're talking about ring psychology. We're talking about moments. We're talking about presence. We're talking about timing. That Toronto crowd that year made WrestleMania, made that match be what it was. They turned Hogan babyface in the middle of the match. In the middle of the match. They get out there and they're chanting Rocky sucks. They're cheering for Hogan. And the Toronto crowd just absolutely hijacked the match in the best way possible. And this is what makes pro wrestling a beautiful thing, because you can feel it and you can feel them understanding the nuance of what was going on. You could see them look at the crowd, look at each other, and there was a silent communication. There was something that was there that said, we're about to make something special out of this. And it was just great to see. It was great to witness. It was great to view. It was incredible. If you turn the volume down on that match and just watch the match for what itself, the match was relatively boring. But when you turn the volume up and you hear the crowd and the electricity that was going through that arena at the time, it was amazing. So I bring both of those up to say it's very much like WrestleMania 42 Day 1, WrestleMania 42 Day 2. WrestleMania 42 Day 1 is very much like WrestleMania 18, a very, very lackluster main card with a great main event. Now, WrestleMania 42 didn't have a great main event for Day 1. However, the majority of that card was very, very lacking. You had one or two maybe really, really good matches. WrestleMania 42 Night 2 was as much more consistent, very much like WrestleMania 17. You had great matches pretty much from the start of the show. For the most part, all the way to the end, you were able to watch it and enjoy the entire time, and you didn't really turn away very often. So, those would be my retro reviews. WrestleMania 17 is always going to be my favorite WrestleMania, hands down. WrestleMania 18 main event is always going to be my favorite match, hands down. But those are by far my two favorite WrestleManias to be able to talk about, and it really kind of better illustrates exactly what I felt about WrestleMania 42.
So for TJ Johnson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Don't be alarmed. The quasi-shimmering light before you is a trans-dimensional gateway to other worlds, other voices, other thoughts, and other realities. Up feels like down, and down feels like the number 7 on a Wednesday morning. Don't worry, that quivering, blood-boiling sensation under your eyebrows is all a part of the charm. Welcome to the PCC Multiverse.